All right, I'm catching up on these best of the month videos for 2025. We're at October now, and sorry for the lack of production values. It really is worth it to just kind of bust through these and get the ideas out and move on to the best of the year. But for now, October was actually one of the best months of new releases for the year. That's usually the case. I wouldn't say it is as strong as it has been in previous years, but these are all pretty solid choices that I still stand behind quite a bit several months later. Otherwise, of course, the format has changed a little bit. The goal remains the same. So we'll start at number 10 with Undersaves Merged in Abstract Perdition. I had reviewed the previous Undersave record quite a few years ago, and I'd found that this Portuguese band was sort of coming from a unique place. There was obviously clear influences there in their sound as a progressive kind of technical death metal band with a old school death metal taste level and influence, but the way that they worked in more dissonant and just believably dark elements into this latest record made it a real standout. This is a record that I wish I'd put on my top 50 of the year because it's grown in interest and just impact over time. It's one of those records that doesn't seem that special at the time, but it developed something that is bigger than I remembered during the review process. So time is always the final say in a lot of these things, and I think Undersave is an underrated band by far by most people. Outlaws Opus Mortis is a follow up to one of the finest records that in this melodic black metal style, kind of atmospheric melodic black metal style that I'd heard in quite some time. And this record just kind of does the same thing. It fuses the modern and the ancient in a very believable way. It is a fine record. It's also not the most memorable record by the band thus far, and I feel like it didn't grow very much in terms of its conviction beyond the previous one. Now, that might be a manner of just production changes or things like that. It's a little bit surface level, but otherwise, this is the same band and a very strong version of it. I think that it is complementary to the previous album without outdoing it for my own taste, but they haven't fallen in any respect. Fine album overall. The second full-length album from Kansas-based death black and death metal band Thaumaturgy is a bit of a revelation in terms of taking United States death metal and Scandinavian death metal ideas and fusing them into something that is more than just a figment of an imagined 90s existence. And it's something that is uh, in line with classic old school death metal values, but has sort of cannibalized itself into something unique and sometimes dissonant to the point where it was a fully interesting album. It was definitely not expected the way it turned out, and I thought it was really worth talking about at the time. I saw a lot of people with this album on their end of the year list, and I think it was very much deserved. Embalming is the debut full length album from Heterotopsy. This is a Japanese death metal band and one who takes heavy influence from, I would say, the quasi melodic side of Swedish death metal in the early days. Their oeuvre is fairly broad, and this is a very well made album if you're a fan of God Macabre Afflicted and the way that Afflicted developed beyond Afflicted Convulsion. You'll appreciate some of the choices made on this record. It doesn't have much of a modern sound. It's actually very old school feeling, and it is still melodramatic and searching and ambitious at the same time. It's a cool record. It feels like something that is genuinely from the underground and not just manufactured to seem like it, and just a solid band overall. At number 6, we have Suffering Hour's latest EP, Impelling Rebirth. This is one of the finest releases of the year. It's an incredible kind of technical death thrashing return for the band. It's got a lot of vibrance and energetic destruction flowing through its hands as it happens. It's an incredible just feat beyond the more atmospheric and searching strands that they've been unveiling in their last few records. So I think that this is something that hopefully is a sign of what they're going to do next on their next full length. But more of this is just would be incredible. I think it's some of their finest work to date, and that's saying a lot for this band. The debut full length album from Arafel, an Italy-based solo project with some help, and the Enchanter is one of the more inspiring sort of Bathory and Hellenic black metal influenced records of the year. You can tell there's a real spirit behind it. There's a real conviction behind their words and their music. And there's also a love for this style of kind of mid-paced melodic black metal that has a stoic presence to it, which is just, it feels huge as you're listening to it, but it also feels, like a confessional warrior creed is the way that I put it. It's a fine record if you're a fan of both classic black metal up from the 90s as well as epic heavy metal past and present. At number 4, we have Cycle of the Dying Sun, Dawn of Ashen Realms from Rune Magic. And this is a record that was a little bit hindered by the fact that there were so many bonus tracks and extra material. I felt like this was like a 2 hour record, but it turned out a lot of those were bonus tracks. And the core record here from Rune Magic is their own unique idiosyncratic brand of death doom metal, or I would say atmospheric and highly textural death metal that is patient and plodding and destructive in the lines that it draws. There's a method there that you can pick up on, but it takes a lot of almost ritualistic listening. And I think I've become more of a fan of this style than I was some of their work as a band in the early 2000s, which was a little bit different. Still, my favorite is still the stuff that was fresh off of the late 90s. That was really their impact, the Bolt Thrower and Dissection sounding stuff. But this is still awesome, and I've been a huge fan of this band, seemingly forever. At number 3, we have Dismal Thoughts from Abysmal Descent. This is a Belgium-based death metal band and a fantastic one. I think this was an unexpected, kind of surprising record for how many riffs they packed into it, how ambitious these songs were. They're all fairly long. They all have tons of riffs packed into them, and there's a lot of tact in the way that they create a soundscape with the amount of rhythms they're pumping out. But it doesn't feel cluttered or too exaggeratively maze-like. But they do get into some technical and progressive feeling moments that heighten the second half and elevate this record overall. It's exceptional in the work that they've done for this debut, and I hope that their next releases are exactly this fastidious and involved and dark. Now, I think everyone was expecting a new album from Vile Apparition, this Australian death metal band, to be good. They've always been solid at this brutal death metal meets old school sound. They have this long list of like a resume and a lot of other great bands, and you can tell that love for the 90s death metal sensibility and the reality that has spawned beyond is really a passion for a lot of these guys, and it shows in this work on Malignity because it's just this huge but very succinct brutal death metal record in the most classic sense. And the way that they've fused the modern with the old school but kept it feeling authentic is pretty exceptional. It's one of my favorite records of the year. No spoilers for the end of the year list. And speaking of a band that would make it on every end of the year list anytime they released a record, Evoken's Mendacium is one of my favorite records of the year. This is a funeral death doom metal band who have greatly inspired me in every way over the years. I remember, buying like albums like Quietus and just falling into it for months at a time. One of my favorite periods of music in terms of discovering the underground and different versions of things. But anyway, Mendacium is a little bit of a return to that 2001 2007 run by returning to the producer from that era and invoking that sound, but then exaggerating it in different experimental ways. They've extended that legacy, their most popular era, while also closing the gap between where they were at on the last few records, which are maybe a little bit more melodic death doom touched in some sense. So fantastic record. If you're a fan of this level of atmosphere and death metal, they're the best that do it from my point of view.